Today I'll be talking about the background, which is what yellow fever is, symptoms, history, transmissions, treatments, vaccine preventions, and some interesting facts. So the background. So what is yellow fever? It's a disease that causes digestive, immune system, and nervous system failures due to mosquitoes. It is a viral hemorrhagic fever said by the World Health Organization, also known as WHO. It is not at a high rate in America, but with airplane travel increasing, it will become an epidemic at any time. Yellow fever is found in tropical areas such as Latin America and sub-Saharan Africa. It is mostly confused with malaria, mostly because yellow fever and malaria have the same symptoms in the beginning, and because they have the same transporting agent, which is the Aedes aegypti. So some symptoms. Well, first the symptoms sit in the body, incubate in the body within 3 to 6 days. One typical cause of yellow fever is jaundice, and jaundice is a medical condition that causes yellowing of the skin. There are 2 phases of symptoms, but most people's health improve within 3 to 4 days. So the first phase. The first phase of symptoms include muscle pain, headache, nausea like vomiting, loss of appetite like anorexia, or backache. In the second phase of yellow fever, it becomes present along with abdominal pain from vomiting and a lot of bleeding. When a patient is bleeding, it comes from all sorts of places like the mouth, the eyes, and the stomach and nose. So, about 15% of people infected enter the second phase. A person infected with yellow fever enters the second phase within 24 hours. This phase is called the toxic phase, and once this stage is entered, there is a high chance that death is in the near future within 10 to 14 days. Survival of the second phase is highly unlikely. If survival is the case, most likely many damages will be in the organs. So in this picture, it shows where the bleeding may come from, or you get red eyes, bleeding comes from mouth, you get jaundice here, and you get back pain, hepatology, and muscle aches, and headache. Symptoms continue. So the symptoms, the second phase you enter within 24 hours. It is a toxic phase. You get many damages if you do survive the toxic phase, and survival of the second phase. So some history. In 1848, Dr. Josiah considered mosquitoes as a cause of yellow fever, but he wasn't able to provide evidence, so the public didn't believe him. The same thing occurred to Carlos Finlay in 1881. Dr. Walter Reed began investigating yellow fever and its causes. He became a bit wary of Finlay's ideas. Theory. Once two members of his group were bitten by mosquitoes and received yellow fever, he confirmed Finlay's idea and created isolated camps. So, right there. And there's a picture of Dr. Josiah. Some major yellow fever epidemics in the United States. In the year of 1973, Philadelphia and New York City had about 5,000 deaths. In 1975, New York City had about 730 deaths. In 1978, Boston to New York City to Philadelphia, all combined, has about 5,000 deaths. And in 1800s, Baltimore had about 1,200 deaths from the range of 1793 and 1905. And in 1853, New Orleans to Galveston had about 8,000 deaths. In 1855, Norfolk had about 2,000 deaths. 1867, Galveston to Houston had 3,000. 1878, Mississippi Valley had 20,000. And 1905, organism transmissions. Yellow fever can be transmitted in many ways. There are different cycles in which it can be transmitted. Each cycle has a living organism transferring the disease. A wild mosquito would carry the disease and infect a monkey. That transfers to a human, and then it goes from human to human. The first cycle is the jungle cycle. It is also called the sylvatic cycle. A mosquito that is carrying the disease bites a monkey, and that same monkey gains yellow fever. When other non-infected mosquitoes bite that same monkey, they develop yellow fever forever. Those mosquitoes that have been infected then bite humans that enter the forest or tropical areas and infect them. This cycle most commonly appears in areas of Africa because of the monkeys transferring it to the humans. The intermediate cycle involves wild mosquitoes that breed around households and infect monkeys and humans. Increased contact between people and infected mosquitoes lead to transmission. The intermediate cycle is the most general way of outbreak in Africa. An outbreak can become more severe if more infected mosquitoes are in an area where people aren't vaccinated for yellow fever. The urban cycle, there is the last of the three. This cycle is where most people get infected because people are presenting the virus in areas where there aren't many people who can get easily infected. This is how yellow fever became a big deal between the 17th and the 18th century. Transmissions continue. Aedes aegypti, or A. aegypti, mosquitoes live mostly in humid, dune climates. In the 17th and 18th century, yellow fever started to spread all over the world. It has mainly affected people in tropical areas such as San Camilo jungle for about 2 centuries or more. People thought it originated in Africa and Latin America. The disease may have been transmitted onto Caribbean slave ships in the 19th century period and carried to America. In the 19th century, the population and trade increased in North America, so the disease spread quickly. Yellow fever killed hundreds of people and spread within trade routes along the coast. A. aegypti usually dies in frost, which means it cannot survive in cold climates, but yellow fever has managed to appear in the mid-Atlantic regions of the U.S. In southern states like Texas and Louisiana, there have been many yellow fever outbreaks throughout the 19th century. There were over 65,000 deaths in 28 states by 1876. People during the 19th century believed dirty surroundings, dirty water, trading goods, etc. was the cause of yellow fever. Since people were stating unsure theories of causes, pedestrians began to kill many stray animals and clean areas where yellow fever was most present. People also started to become hesitant towards goods that were brought into town by railroads and cargo ships. So some treatments. So there are antibiotics. Fighting yellow fever may cause a person's immune system to become temporarily weak. Weak immune system cannot guard against bacterial infections as it normally would, so infections occur more easily. Antibiotics may be given to fight bacterial infections if they occur. Antibiotics cannot be given to treat yellow fever because yellow fever is a virus, and a virus do not respond to antibiotics. So there is clarithromycin, which is amoxicillin, augmentin, ciprofloxacin, and clarithromycin kills bacteria and treats the throat and respiratory infections. Amoxicillin, which is in a liquid form or a tablet form, treats urinary infections and bladder infections. Ciprofloxacin is a prescription antibiotic, and it's available in different forms. And it treats urinary tract infections, bone and joint infections, and kidney infections. So treatments. James Thornton experimented with many treatments. He tried quinine, which only helped in gradually healing and made matters worse for the patient otherwise. Calomel was another testing of treatments which only helped the patient in the beginning of the disease, but caused more damage towards the end. Physicians in Cuba suggested castor oil, and orange tea, which helped in some situations, but not all, including by Thornton. In his experiment, he also came across pure lime juice in cracked ice. That was suggested by a Panama Canal physician. It was the most useful and satisfactory method in treatment he came across. He did notice that beneficial nursing saved some patients. Dr. J.E. Jennings. Cocaine was suggested by Dr. J.E. Jennings for an antiemetic. Thornton tried it and he used cocaine in every one of his patients. He stated that half of his patients died before he used the antiemetic. The 3 patients who died out of the 20 had urine suppression. He used a diuretic to try and improve and enhance the flow of urine. The patient's result was death. The patient died from cramps and seizures. Usually black vomit would occur, and it failed to appear in this case. The only thing keeping doctors on edge is the urine suppression. In some cases, cocaine is used as a discharge of urine by medicine. So, when you're taking cocaine, when they gave the patient cocaine, they didn't give it immediately after nourishment. It was in a form of a pill, and you were supposed to give it to the person that was on an empty stomach. They gave half to, or 1/3 of a dose, given every 30 minutes for a week. So, the dose of cocaine is best granted in the form of a pill. They didn't find any serious problems with cocaine until the 1920s, and back then they weren't educated on how cocaine could become addicting and kind of like harmful things to you. Thornton didn't find any problems with it, but then it became a large usage in the United States between the 1970s and 80s. And at that time, it was illegal, yet in great demand, and the cost of cocaine was really high, and violence became connected to the use of selling cocaine, so they stopped using cocaine. Then there was a vaccine made in 1988. It was a live viral vaccine. Injected 1 dose of 0.5 milliliters, 9 months or older. You have to be treated with the vaccine if you were 9 months or older, and you got a booster every 10 years to make sure. So some preventions of yellow fever. There are a few ways to prevent yellow fever. Getting a vaccine is one of the most highly recommended actions that could be taken. Mosquitoes are a problem. Precautions could be taken. For instance, applying mosquito repellent using screens on windows. Other precautions could be taken by eliminating mosquito reproduction areas. Mosquitoes have interesting breeding places, like in the cracks of walls. There are more interesting facts about yellow fever now. So, yellow fever has interesting facts that many people don't know about. Yellow fever has doubled over the past 2 decades because of climate change, urbanization, etc. When patients vomited, it was always black. About 900 million people in tropical areas get infected. There are over 200,000 reports of yellow fever, and 30,000 people die every year because of it. Half of the people infected with yellow fever will die, and effective treatment uses cocaine, as mentioned earlier, and there are treatments, but none of them are specifically healers. The treatments mainly prevent symptoms. Here's my bibliography. Thank you for listening. I will now open the floor to any questions, comments, or constructive criticism. Healing.
Okay. So in the beginning you said the viral hemorrhagic fever. What is that?
A viral hemorrhagic is like, can I get back to you on that? Maria.
I think in the beginning you said something about people when they got yellow fever, they would get better in 3 to 4 days, but when you mentioned the second stage, you said they would die.
Well, within 3 to 4 days, if you do enter the second stage, there is a very high chance that you will die, like really high. But if you do survive, which is really unlikely, then you get many organ damages. Joy?
In one of your slides, you use the word anti-emetic.
Yeah, it's more like it's like a non-vaccine, but so it's like a non-treatment, but they use it, so I guess it is a treatment. So it eventually helped the patient, but at the time he didn't think it would help them. Megan.
I think you mentioned that yellow fever can be transmitted from person to person. In what methods can yellow fever be transmitted through that?
It can be transmitted from person to person, not indirectly, but mostly through blood contact, since when a mosquito bites you and it is, the disease is entered into the blood. So if you lock blood with someone else, then you will contract yellow fever from them.
In one of your slides, you mentioned the word hepatomegaly. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's in the liver. I didn't really look into what it did. I'll give it to you.
Any other questions? No. Okay.